The Giants closing in on Tony Vitello, what I think about the hire, and what happens if the whole thing falls through. That's all coming up on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. My name is Alan Stiles. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area. I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show at Sacktown Sports 1140, the Alan Stiles Show, 10 a.m., 2 p.m. Be sure to check that out, as well as emceeing Sacramento Rivercats games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we're talking about the huge news with the Giants closing in on Tony Vitello, that report that came out this weekend, whether or not that's the right move, and what happens if the whole thing falls through. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, so I'm going to be very, very honest with all of you today. It was a confusing situation, my decision for when I wanted to do this podcast, just with all of the different reports that have come out, and we'll go through all of them as I want to use this first segment as a timeline, if you will, because word on the street is that this thing could break any minute now. But the other part of this is I've been told, and it's been reported as well, that there's also an idea that this might not break until the ALCS is over. It's just a courtesy that you don't step on the toes of other teams when they're still playing. So keep a close eye. If the Mariners had won last night, that'd be different. But keep a close eye on tomorrow, right? Because obviously the Mariners and Blue Jays are going to close out their series. It's going to be beautiful, beautiful baseball. Then after that, that little break, the mini break that the two teams will have, that is where the Giants may look to announce something, not just the Giants, other teams as well. So I'm sitting there, and we're going to our third pumpkin patch of October, and I get a text from a couple different people because, I was driving. So when I get to, when we get in the parking lot, I'm, okay, my watch is going off, and I look down, and it just says, wow, the Giants are going college, right? So I'm thinking, what? In my mind, that is the first thing I thought, but I got the kids in the back, we're trying to figure things out. So my mind wasn't fully there. And then it came around to say, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about. I see the reports from The Athletic as a whole, about three different journalists, three different reporters that kind of collabed on it, as The Athletic tends to do. And the Giants are closing in on Tony Vitello. Later on, we saw from the SF Chronicle that Nick Hundley, and they mention it in the Athletic article as well, but Nick Hundley did end up dropping out of it. So, and I think that's something else being buried, that Nick Hundley, we know, if you've been listening to the show and watching the show, we know that the Giants had Nick Hundley as number one, but it was just kind of out there. They already had said, hey, it's yours if you want it, essentially. Nick Hundley sounds like he said no thank you, and the Giants had to move on. So again, I tried to tell y'all that Buster has his priority list. Did I think Vitello was number 2 on the priority list? I did not. I'm not going to act like I knew that, because this was something that I didn't see coming. So just quick note, if you weren't able to read the Athletic article, just a couple quick excerpts from it. Industry sources confirmed that the Giants are closing in on hiring Tony Vitello, a 47-year-old Division I head coach who transformed the University of Tennessee from an SEC bottom feeder into one of the most talent-rich programs in the country. Buster was seeking a big personality who could imbue the Giants clubhouse with confidence, and Vitello's dynamism and charisma have been on full display in both his recruiting efforts and the Volunteers' brash and buoyant style of play. Vitello led his teams to 3 College World Series appearances in the past 5 seasons. That's my biggest thing. I just didn't think that this was the type of guy that Buster Posey would be interested in. It's that simple to me. I didn't think that Tony Vitello was Buster Posey's style. Buster Posey played with a Madison Bumgarner who didn't like people bat flipping. And I feel like I am specifically put in this situation, right? And I'm right here for y'all because I watch Tennessee baseball. I'm college baseball, the game is growing, but I've been watching college baseball for a very long time. So I feel like I am one of the most well-equipped people within Giants media to tell you exactly who Tony Vitello is. I'm sure a lot of you have been seeing the clips floating around when they won the College World Series. He's jumping in the crowd. He's sliding on the ground everywhere. That's really who he is. And I think it has shown me and told me a lot about Buster Posey that you are not who your friends are. And Buster Posey coming up with Bumgarner and the idea that, hey, we're much more old school. We don't do any of that. That is why I'm the most surprised that Buster decided to go in this direction, because Tony Vitello is unapologetic. Look at Drew Gilbert, right? Look at Drew Gilbert, and Drew Gilbert has not turned down at all, but Drew Gilbert has been a little bit different, and he's just kind of this very peppy teammate because Drew Gilbert is not hitting 360 or whatever he was hitting at Tennessee. Imagine Drew Gilbert acting the way he acts now, but with a ton of confidence because he's one of the best hitters in the nation. And you all remember, and go look it up, that bat flip when Drew Gilbert hit a walk-off grand slam. He threw a bat in the air so high, I don't know that it's landed yet. So this is who the Tennessee Volunteers have been. This is who Tony Vitello has been, the same way we see it with Drew Gilbert. And you know who one of Tony Vitello's favorite players ever is? Drew Gilbert. He said it when Drew Gilbert got drafted. He was on with MLB Network because his Volunteers get drafted all the time. So maybe we should have seen the writing on the wall a little bit. And I'll kind of explain to you why, as we've gone through some of these player profiles with the Giants and their top 30 prospects, there has been a theme. So we will discuss what that theme is. I still have more to break down as it pertains to what came out, why this thing is still a little wonky, and if you're a Giants fan, why you should have some cause to pause, not for the hire, but how things are going. I mean, we've seen Carlos Correa come and go. We've seen Arson Judge come and go, and things are a little bit strange as far as the timing on all this. The one thing, and I'll get more into this in the next segment, the one thing is to remember that they did not want things to break during the ALCS. So that is the hope that I'm holding on to, as some people are wondering, well, why isn't it done yet? So we'll continue to break that down. So don't move. We have more for you on the other side. More Locked On Giants coming up. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. Fees are included. Know your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. I love the zone deals. You pick the section, you pick the seats, or Game Time picks you the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I bought tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go download Game Time today. So again, we are continuing with the timeline conversation. Also, I have some of my thoughts on the hire. And again, this is kind of a weird situation because he's not hired yet. So I don't really want to give my full thoughts on the hire until he's actually hired. I've done this before with Carlos Correa. I've done this before with Aaron Judge. So I want to be very careful, although I know a lot of you want my thoughts on it. And my quick thoughts, I'll say, is that I think it's outstanding. I think I'm really proud of Buster for going in this direction. I also think this could be an absolute disaster if it doesn't work out. But you got to be bold in life sometimes. And Buster Posey has essentially said, I'm going to go out with a bang. And if we're not going to be able to spend the type of money that the Dodgers spend, we have to attack this in a different way. We have to bring a certain swagger about us. I know the kids say aura now, not swag anymore, but we have to bring something new about us that we haven't seen before. And I think Tony Vitello can do that. No disrespect to those that are already in the coaching carousel, but Buster is taking as the kids say, a daddy hack, right? Buster is swinging for the fences, and it might not work out. Right. And Buster, at that point, I think it would cost Buster his job. But fortune favors the bold, as they say. And he is going to go down in a blaze of glory. He's not going to go down because he grabbed another coach from a carousel. And I get it. There's other first-time guys that he was interested in. But I think Buster's point is, if I'm going to get a first-time guy, I want to get somebody that kind of speaks to what we're trying to do and what we've represented. And as I've said, the writing has been on the wall. Let's not forget all the guys that we've talked about in the player profile. Drew Gilbert's already in the league. He's with the Giants right now. They also traded for Blade Tidwell, who will be in the league next season. They got Gavin Keelan, okay, who is a top 10 prospect, right? Then they have Maui Ohuna, who I don't believe we've done a player prospect on quite yet, but he's another guy that ended up transferring to Tennessee. So that's 4 guys in your top 30 list. And I know Drew Gilbert's no longer a prospect technically because he's in the league, but that's 4 guys in your organization, high-level prospects that the Giants have taken with connections to Tennessee. So clearly they've liked what Tennessee is doing and how Tennessee is building their program. That's obvious. So that's where this thing starts to make a little bit more sense when you see the writing on the wall. I wanted to get to what Paston had to say. And this show in particular, everything is going to kind of blend together a bit because there's just so much to discuss. And I want to make sure I get out all the information and that we're reacting to everything as well. Of course, put your comments, put everything in the YouTube, on the YouTube page, and, however you want to get at me at the _Styles Files, Styles with an I. So this is what Paston said. And this is where people are starting to get a little wonky, but I would say don't worry quite yet. The decision on whether Tennessee coach Tony Vitello will be the next manager of the San Francisco Giants is expected to come in the next 24 to 72 hours, sources tell me. Vitello has emerged as the top target of the Giants, but sides have yet to reach a deal. Okay, and just as far as this being unprecedented, should a deal between Vitello and the Giants come together, he would be the first manager in MLB history hired directly from the college ranks with no professional baseball experience. The buyout on Vitello's contract at Tennessee is $3 million, according to sources. They also go on to say that he definitely won't be one of the cheaper coaches because he's not one of the cheaper coaches at the college level. So if you're getting him to leave, I don't think y'all understand. Tony Vitello probably never pays for any type of food or any type of beverage, anything in Tennessee. Okay, he brought them that World Series, that national title. They haven't been able to get it in basketball. They haven't been able to get it in football, and they got it in baseball in one of the most brash ways possible. So Tony Vitello, a lot of people just love who he is and what he brings to the table. And did I initially think that Buster Posey would be one of them? No, but it goes to show that I'm learning about Buster Posey the same way we all are. Again, as far as the hire is concerned, the X's and O's, I think this is the same situation you see with, it's not the same because he didn't play in the major leagues, but a JJ Redick, if you will. A JJ Redick and guys like that. I think more JJ Redick than Steve Kerr, because Steve Kerr was at least around and he was in a front office as well. But Tony Vitello, no connection to the pros as far as I'm concerned. And that is a little alarming. It is a little alarming, but I think that you have to just go for it. I like what I like about it, and I've seen a couple different things come out. This is from John Shea, who says, quote, he's the guy who probably convinced Buster Posey he could beat the Dodgers, an industry source said of Tony Vitello. No doubt in my mind, he walked in and said that. Just give me the horses. So that's just the type of the confidence that Buster Posey is looking for that he hasn't really had, right? Or I guess he feels like the organization hasn't had. There are also some notes that I saw about the actual X's and O's that a lot of people aren't talking about, but the actual X's and O's when it comes to what the Tennessee volunteer program has created, what they've done, how they've put guys in a better position to throw harder. Here we go. This is from Fangraphs, right? So this says, here's Vitello from July talking about conditioning that resulted in velo and power jumps. It wouldn't surprise me if the Giants tried to get on board with this throughout the organization. Me and Frank talked about wanting to pitch and throw strikes and play defense. If we planned anything, it was that Vitello says. But what came out of it was all these guys making velo jumps and then our guys hitting for power. I come back to our strength coach for a lot of this. Conditioning is a big thing, Vitello noted with some pride that Doyle dropped 19 pounds of fat during his junior year, which contributed to his superb draft year performance. Vitello says getting into Tennessee's conditioning program can be a tough transition for some players. There ends up being not even a love-hate, just a hate relationship there, Vitello says. But with Liam, he was determined to get it. So even though he was getting his butt kicked the first month and really couldn't keep up with the group, he was very determined to get through it. So again, if you're drafting guys that are these older players, right, from college, and we know that since 2020, these guys have been accelerating their process into the big leagues. Why wouldn't you bring somebody else that can speak their language and that is used to some of these college players? Now, that is not a tiny portion, but that's just a small portion of what Tony Vitello's job is. But I think that Buster sees it as the beginning of a foundation, right? And this is who we are. This is our voice. This is what everybody knows about us. We take college guys and we take dudes that are pretty much ready to go and we get them to the next level, as well as taking swings on international guys that they feel Vitello will be able to speak to as well, because he's used to bringing in freshmen and younger guys. Now, he's not going to be working with these kids day to day, but he will, I would assume, change the whole organization and the process and the farm system to represent who he is. And we talked about different jumps from AAA to AA, things like that. That is a big, big change and a big, big stance on creating a new profile on who you are as an organization. And you have to do new things. You know, you have to do it. You have to say, hey, this is who we are. Look, I know a lot of people don't like the Astros because of the cheating thing. So I am not applauding the Astros, obviously, for that. But the Astros, they created an identity of who they were and they stuck to it. Not the cheating, but how they drafted and who they wanted to go after. The Red Sox did it with the hybrid Moneyball model. The A's did it with the Moneyball model. You have to, if you're not going to be able to pay the likes of the Dodgers and things like that, you have to do it in a different way. And that's what Buster Posey is going to attempt to do here with Tony Vitello possibly joining the crew. And the reason I say possibly is because there's still a lot out there. What happens if it falls through? I have some notes from Kendall Rogers, who is huge in the college baseball world, and he has some notes that would make Tennessee fans feel good and make Giants fans feel not so good. Do not move. One more segment with you. More Locked On Giants coming up. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. What I love about FanDuel, I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. So what happens if this thing falls through? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but some people think it's weird that this thing isn't done yet. I'm not one of those people because Tim Kawakami said this would happen within the next couple days. I've also been told, again, as I mentioned, it's kind of an unspoken rule that these things don't happen while a series is going on, especially a Game 7. So I'm not really too worried about it quite yet, but I can understand why Some people may be. I can understand why some of you may be scarred from the Aaron Arson Judge thing, from the Carlos Correa thing. I completely understand it. But let me tell you right now, I am not worried yet. If nothing happens tomorrow, after game 7 is over, then I would say, okay, something weird is going on. But I'm not worried quite yet. This is what Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball had to say, and he's very, very plugged in on the college side of things. I was told a couple weeks ago the sides had very, very serious interest. Things went quiet for a bit, and now this interesting sequence of events, the behind-the-scenes info and the Giants insiders confirming everything on the pro side gives serious credence. But again, the longer things are drawn out, the better it just might be for UT. Talking about University of Tennessee. So he was at practice yesterday. Tony Vitello was. And everybody, look, University of Tennessee, one of the largest followings in all of college sports, and they have all their people out there, and hey, he was at practice and it's all good, blah 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 blah. Look, I don't know if it's all good or not. All I know is, well, isn't he still the coach? Isn't he still the coach? Why wouldn't he be out there? Again, I'm looking at this from the pro side of things. I'm looking at this from what Tim Kawakami is saying, with what other people are saying. Let me know. I am not worried unless nothing comes out after this series is over, after tonight, when the Mariners, who are in a tough spot now as they weren't able to win yesterday, great series, Mariners taking on the Blue Jays, they win. I would expect an announcement tomorrow. If it doesn't happen tomorrow, then yeah, I would be a little worried. The other part of it too is the money aspect and the whole buyout. Look, man, we understand that the Dodgers are on another level, but the Giants got plenty of cash. Okay, so if they really want Tony Vitello, this buyout thing should not be a question at all. I think it more so comes down to is Tony Vitello in some capacity getting cold feet. Tony Vitello, like I said, you go from being a big fish in a small pond. In Tennessee baseball, it was a really small pond as far as SEC baseball is concerned, and he turned it into a behemoth. And it probably feels like his baby. Right? So he's going to leave his baby to take a chance in the bigs, do something that nobody's ever done before. And I'm sure that's a little bit scary. So, some have been discussing, is this a matter of cold feet or something like that? I don't know. But all I know is it'd be really hard for me to leave. There's a reason I know Nick Saban did mess around for a second in the NFL and then come back. But this college to pro thing, you get treated a lot differently. Even with NIL, he has a great system. Not to mention those, and I said this a couple weeks ago, those home run numbers, those power numbers. Let's just say playing at Lindsay Stadium, Lindsay Ballpark, is not the same as playing at Oracle Park. So there's a lot of things that are going to have to translate for Tony Vitello in order for this to work. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's just a little bit of, I don't know, the money's good, but the money's pretty good here. and it really comes down to how much he wants to challenge himself. And I don't say that in a negative way at all, as if he doesn't want to go to the bigs, he doesn't want to challenge himself. He's put himself in this position. There are a bunch of other coaches, college coaches, that they don't even pick up calls. Why would they? This is something that has never happened before. The only time it's happened, there have been college coaches, but they've all been connected to a major league team, right? They were with the Yankees or they were with somebody, then they came back. Nothing like this has ever been the case. So obviously he's going to take his time and try to figure it out. What happens if it falls through? Real quick on the Nick Hundley front, he did decide that it was better for his situation and his family. And I don't know. You never say never, but I would feel like that might be one of the last times that Nick Hundley gets a call. Look, I guess you hope it would be, because that would mean that Tony Vitello would work out, right? We don't want to be sitting here in 2 years saying, I wonder if Nick Hundley's ready to say yes, because that means that Tony Vitello didn't work out. So this, I guess you hope, and again, this is not anything against Nick Hundley, but you hope this is the last conversation that the Giants have about Nick Hundley, because that would mean that whoever they pick, whether it's Tony Vitello or any of the other names, it worked out, right? And either, Nick Hundley, maybe he decided to take a manager job a couple years from now somewhere else. Maybe the Padres recycle another guy in a couple years, but That's my take on it. As far as he's concerned, he cited family reasons, and we knew that was going to be the thing. And we knew it was always kind of not weird, but we knew that it was kind of fishy, if you will, when the report was that it was just out. Right. And Nick Hundley was basically mulling it over. That's how I knew I just don't think he's going to take this job. Right now, I guess you could say the same thing. The difference is more logistics with Tony Vitello because he is under contract. They're going to have to buy him out. So we'll see. But the TLDR version of how I'm feeling, the too long don't read version of how I'm feeling about the Giants making this move is I think it's outstanding. I think it's bold. I think it's a risk. I think it's exactly what Buster Posey wants to show the baseball world, that he is not afraid to take chances and that you will have to deal with us. And we've seen the overcorrection before. By the way, I almost finished the episode without bringing up. Yeah, people are giving some Gabe Kapler comparisons, but that's just any young coach. Any young coach give Gabe Kapler comparisons. I don't know enough about Tony Vitello's philosophy from an analytical standpoint, but people see a young coach and they say, what are we just doing, Gabe Kapler again? So every young coach is not Gabe Kapler. Okay, so don't be afraid about that. And Gabe Kapler was the last person to get the Giants to the playoffs. Don't make me bring it up. So there's that as well. But I think this is the right move for Buster. We'll see if it ends up working out. I'll give more of a take once it's official, but I wanted to give you all the information and how I'm feeling about it. It was a crazy weekend. And hey, maybe you're listening to this and the news breaks, but I feel like it's going to be tomorrow. So we'll keep an eye on that and go from there. Thank you for listening to Locked On Giants. Please follow me on social media at @the_Styles Files, Styles with an I. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We will talk to you tomorrow, possibly with a new head coach. Until then, peace.